the execution of Jane Boleyn. She was the wife of George Boleyn, the brother of Anne Boleyn, the second wife of King Henry VIII of England. Jane Boleyn was accused of helping to arrange the alleged infidelity of her husband and sister-in-law, and was also implicated in the supposed plot to overthrow the king. She was found guilty and executed by beheading on the 13th of February 1542. Jane Boleyn was a member of the powerful Boleyn family, which rose to prominence during the reign of King Henry VIII of England. Her sister-in-law, Anne Boleyn, became Henry's second wife, but was later accused of adultery, treason, and incest, and was executed in 1536. Jane's husband, George Boleyn, was also accused of adultery with his sister and was executed along with Anne. After her husband's death, Jane remained at court and continued to serve the Queen's household. However, she later became implicated in an alleged plot to overthrow the king and was accused of helping to arrange the sexual encounters between her husband and sister-in-law that were used to incriminate them. Jane was tried and found guilty of high treason and was sentenced to be executed. Jane's execution was a tragic end to a life that was marked by political intrigue and tragedy. Her story continued to capture the imagination of historians and the general public alike, and has been the subject of numerous books, films, and other works of popular culture. Jane was also the lady-in-waiting to both Anne Boleyn and her successor, Jane Seymour. She was accused of helping to plot against Anne Boleyn and was ultimately executed for treason. However, the extent of her involvement in the plot remains a subject of debate among historians. She was born in England in around 1505, and she was the daughter of Henry Parker, 10th Baron Morley, and Alice St. John. She grew up in an aristocratic family and received a good education, which was typical for girls of her social class at the time. Her family was connected to the royal court, and she had likely had contact with some of the leading figures of the day. However, details of her childhood are relatively scarce, and not much is known about her early life before her family connections. Her father, Henry Parker, was a member of the nobility and held various positions in the government during his lifetime, including serving as a member of Parliament. Alice St. John was also from an aristocratic family and was the daughter of Sir John of Blestow. Through her parents, Jane was related to many of the leading families in England at the time, including the Boleyns, who would later become her in-laws. Jane Boleyn's life was closely tied to the tumultuous political climate of the Tudor court. She was born into a noble family and married George Boleyn, the brother of Queen Anne Boleyn, in 1525. Her sister-in-law's elevation to queen brought the Boleyn family great wealth and influence, but also exposed them to the dangers of court politics. After Anne's fall from grace and execution, Jane's fortunes declined, and she was eventually arrested and charged with treason. Some historians have suggested that her role in the alleged plot against the king was exaggerated, and that she was used as a scapegoat by those seeking to further their own interests. In the years since her death, Jane Boleyn has been the subject of much speculation and debate. Some portray her as a manipulative and treacherous figure, while others view her as a victim of the Tudor court. Jane Boleyn was imprisoned in the Tower, and she was interrogated for many months before she was executed, but she was not tortured. However, she seems to have suffered a full nervous breakdown, and by the beginning of 1542, she was pronounced insane. Because she was pronounced insane, she was not legally allowed to stand trial for her role in facilitating the Queen's adultery, but the king was determined to have her punished. But he changed the law so that he could execute someone who was insane and who had committed treason. Jane Boleyn, also known as Lady Rochford, was executed on Tower Green within the Tower of London on the 13th of February 1542. She was beheaded by axe, and her execution was attended by a small crowd of witnesses. According to some accounts, she showed great courage and composure on the scaffold, calmly preparing for her execution and even helping the executioner to adjust her collar. However, other accounts suggest that she may have been hysterical and struggled with the executioner before he finally struck the fatal blow. After her execution, her body was buried in the unmarked grave within the chapel of St. Peter ad Facula, where many other famous prisoners of the Tower of London are also buried. Please continue to support my channel by subscribing. Please comment, like and subscribe if you wish for more stories, and leave your suggestions below and I will endeavour to cover them.